right, so this is a funny week in a way because we have to finish Ferguson's book. And I actually really like Ferguson's book for an overview of the last 500, 600 years. And then it gets to this chapter. And what I have a problem with are the argument jumps that he makes in this chapter. I think there's a lot of good information in here and some really interesting concepts. But I think what this does is it provides a chance for us to think about the importance of argument and making a case for something in history. And we can do that through Ferguson's work. And so in some ways I kind of like that chance to do that. So when we think about history, it is important to think about the fact that people are always interpreting history and then analyzing it and then making certain claims about it. And we see a lot of those things. So when you read Jared Diamond, you're actually reading his argument for something. He's saying that the geography of the world and of specific continents has led to specific civilization patterns. And that is his argument. If you read his book or if you watch his videos, you could actually map that out. Another famous argument is whether or not Abraham Lincoln always intended to free the slaves, or was it something that kind of came up to him as politically advantageous after Antietam. So there are people who lay out both sides. Abraham Lincoln never wanted to free the slaves and just did it because of these reasons. Abraham Lincoln always was an abolitionist and was just waiting for the right time. We just read something on why we bombed Japan, and there are lots of people who argue about this. But again, it's laying out your argument, making sure that the things that you say are true, and then logically reasoning from those things. But what's important in history is that you support your premises with fact. And that's where, and then you make logical jumps with those facts. And that's where sometimes we get into trouble. So one way of thinking about this is we're going to say, if this is true, then that is true. And so if we can say that this one thing is true, then logically we're going to get to the next thing being true. They always make these little things up into all fathers are men. John is a father, therefore John is a man. All these kinds of things. And what you're trying to do is make sure that you're laying out this argument and then you're proving it with facts, and so the only way you could get to your conclusion would be through walking down those facts. The problem becomes when you take a jump and you fail to really show somebody how you're thinking. And sometimes I'll say this to students in papers: I can't see where this argument is coming from, or you made this intellectual jump and you didn't bring me through it. So sometimes when you don't lay out your argument clearly, you get into trouble. And that's what I would like you to do this week with Ferguson, is say, can you identify some pieces of this where he either makes a jump, where he's assuming that some things are true and you are not agreeing with that, or maybe where he makes a really nice argument and you say, yeah, I can see that, I agree with that. You do not have to agree with everything you read or hear or see. But you want to be able to say, I don't agree with you because. And you don't want to say, as we did for the last so many months, you're stupid or whatever we were saying to each other in this political climate. But we want to be able to have those discussions. And why is this important? It's important in history because that's what historians do. We look at things and then we try to reason our way through those things. It's important in life because these are issues that we need to be able to talk about, and we don't want to yell about, we don't want to scream about, or call each other names about, or become divisive, in terms of our whole nation about, or a family. So there are a lot of things that you could take one position or another, but you want to be able to defend your position with both logical argument and real fact. So these are just some examples of things that we do not agree on in this country or in this society, and we need to be able to talk about these things. And at some point we're going to have to make some decisions on these things, but we want to do that with reason, and not emotion, or not, individual sentiment. So hopefully this will be a little bit of a break for you, and you're starting to either view or read another book as we get closer to the end. And not too heavy a week, so I think you'll be okay. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.